Bill Gates' success story is one of those rare journeys that feels both inspiring and almost impossible to replicate. It's a mix of timing, talent, relentless work, and vision. But when you really look closer, you see it's not just about building Microsoft, it's about a boy who grew up curious, a young man who took bold risks, and a leader who learned to use success for something bigger than himself. Born in Seattle in 1955, William Henry Gates III wasn't raised in extreme hardship. His family was middle to upper class, his father a lawyer and his mother involved in civic activities. But while his environment gave him opportunity, it didn't guarantee greatness. That came from something inside him, a restless curiosity and an unusual way of looking at the world. As a child, Gates loved to read. He devoured encyclopedias and biographies, fascinated by how things worked. But his life truly shifted in middle school when he first got access to a computer. Remember, this was the late 1960s. Computers weren't in every home, they weren't even in most schools. They were massive machines, expensive and rare. Gates, however, was instantly hooked. At just 13, he wrote his first software program, a simple game of tic-tac-toe. It wasn't revolutionary, but for a kid who barely had access to machines, it was mind-blowing. That early spark turned into hours of experimenting, coding, and finding every possible chance to be near a computer. Alongside his close friend Paul Allen, Gates started pushing boundaries. They would sneak into computer labs, sometimes bending the rules just to get more time on a terminal. This wasn't just teenage mischief, it was practice. Practice that would later change the world. By high school, Gates and Allen were already entrepreneurs. They formed a small company called Data, designed to analyze traffic data using primitive computers. It wasn't a blockbuster success, but it gave them confidence. It taught them that technology could solve real-world problems, and more importantly, that they could be the ones to do it. In 1973, Gates entered Harvard University. Most parents would have celebrated. Harvard was, and still is, one of the most prestigious schools in the world. But Gates wasn't there to become a lawyer or doctor. He was still obsessed with computers. Even as he studied, he spent endless nights in front of Harvard's computer systems. He would later say that during those years, he barely slept. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1975, Paul Allen showed Gates a magazine cover featuring the Altair 8800, one of the first personal computers. To most people, it looked like a confusing box with lights and switches. But to Gates and Allen, it was the future. They saw something that others didn't. Computers were about to move from universities and corporations into the hands of ordinary people. And if that was true, those computers would need software. They immediately contacted the makers of Altair, claiming they had built a programming language for it when in fact, they hadn't yet written a single line of code. Bold? Definitely. Risky? Absolutely. But Gates believed they could pull it off. For weeks, they coded non-stop, and when they finally presented it, it worked. That moment was the beginning of Microsoft. Gates made a decision that shocked his family and friends. He dropped out of Harvard. To him, the choice wasn't crazy. School could wait. The chance to change the world could not. Alongside Allen, he officially founded Microsoft in 1975, with a simple but ambitious mission, a computer on every desk and in every home. At the time, it sounded almost laughable. Computers were too expensive, too complicated, and most people didn't see why they'd ever need one at home. But Gates wasn't thinking about most people. He was thinking about what could be possible. Over the next decade, Gates' intensity became legendary. He worked endless hours, often sleeping at the office. He was known for being tough on employees, sometimes brutally honest, but he also pushed them to think bigger. He had a gift for seeing the long-term picture while still obsessing over the details. Microsoft's big breakthrough came in 1980, when IBM was building its first personal computer. They needed an operating system, and Microsoft promised to deliver. Instead of building it entirely from scratch, Gates struck a clever deal to license an existing system and adapt it. The result was MS-DOS, the foundation on which Microsoft would rise. That deal was historic. Gates insisted on retaining the rights to license the software to other companies, not just IBM. This decision turned Microsoft from a small player into the dominant force in personal computing. By the mid-1980s, when Microsoft introduced Windows, a more user-friendly interface, PCs were exploding in popularity, and Microsoft was at the center of it all. By age 31, Bill Gates was the youngest billionaire in the world. His fortune grew alongside Microsoft's dominance, and by the 1990s, the company had become one of the most powerful businesses on Earth. Gates' vision of putting a computer in every home was no longer a dream, it was reality. But success wasn't without challenges. Microsoft faced criticism for aggressive business tactics, and Gates often found himself in the middle of antitrust lawsuits. Critics called him ruthless. Supporters called him brilliant. Maybe he was both. But even through the controversies, Gates never stopped pushing forward. By the early 2000s, Gates began shifting his focus. He stepped down as Microsoft's CEO in 2000, handing over the reins to Steve Ballmer, though he remained closely involved. But something else had started to take hold of his mind: philanthropy. Together with his wife Melinda, Gates founded the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which would become one of the largest charitable organizations in the world. Instead of just giving away money, Gates approached philanthropy with the same analytical intensity he brought to Microsoft. The foundation focused on fighting diseases like malaria, improving education, and helping communities out of poverty. Gates believed that wealth came with responsibility, the responsibility to make the world better. Today, Bill Gates is remembered not only as the co-founder of Microsoft, but also as one of the greatest philanthropists of modern times. His foundation has donated billions, changing countless lives across the globe. The beauty of Gates' story is that it isn't just about one man becoming rich. It's about vision. It's about a teenager who believed in computers when few people did, and about an entrepreneur who wasn't afraid to take risks. It's also about a leader who, after achieving success, chose to turn his energy towards solving humanity's biggest problems. If there's one lesson in Bill Gates' journey, it's this: success doesn't come from doing what everyone else expects of you. It comes from following your curiosity, working harder than most people can imagine, and having the courage to take risks when opportunity knocks. Gates didn't just predict the future, he built it. And then, he used it to give back.